Hey everyone, it's Jessica Gordon, North Carolina, South Carolina real estate agent. Here is our recording from the webinar where we talked about real estate investments and flipping properties.
All right. So, just a little bit about myself, you all. I was a North Carolina public educator for 12 years. This year actually makes year 12, and I'm still doing some contract work, but I am now a North Carolina and South Carolina real estate agent. And on the line, we have Adrian Kendrick, who is also a North Carolina real estate agent, investor, also an industrial and mechanical engineer, and he's going to be able to share more details about himself. And we have Calvin Cleveland, who is also a North Carolina real estate agent and investor, and also is a banking VP, and he can share with you a little bit later. So here's some pictures from their latest flip, you all, and I'm just going to be honest. I was blown away. If you go to their social media page, which they will share with you a little bit later, there are plenty of pictures. There's a really dope video for you to check out. So I'm encouraging you to go to their page, but you can just see the before and after, the detail. It just exceptional work. I love a backyard, and so this really caught my attention as well. And so Cleve Realty and TKN Realty did the work, you all. And so they have these before and after pictures for you to be able to check out. Just wanted those of you that are not as active on social media or may not have seen these pictures, I wanted you to be able to get a good look. So now it is time for us to get into it and let us discuss. All right. So first things first, Adrian, tell us a little bit about who you are. What do you do?
All right, so I'm currently a process engineer at Wells Fargo. Started out in engineering, so I went to UNC Charlotte and got my electrical engineering degree. Then graduated from UNC Charlotte and went to North Carolina A&T, got my industrial and systems engineering degree, and then moved to Indianapolis to start working at Rolls-Royce in their systems engineering department. Stayed there for a few years, and during the cold and the winter and the snow, and then decided that we needed to get back to North Carolina, and then started working at Rockwell Automation as a project manager. Decided that project management wasn't for me, and came to Wells Fargo and kind of got back in engineering. Once I got the real estate in Indianapolis when I moved, so my dad always told me, he was like, I don't know why you renting. You're paying somebody else when you could be paying yourself, right? You just need to get a house. So when I moved to Indianapolis, after a year in my apartment, I got a house. And then when I moved back to North Carolina, I kept it and I rented it. And then when I moved back to North Carolina, Calvin was getting his feet wet in real estate and kept telling me, get your license. And eventually I went ahead and got it right before I moved to Charlotte. So now I'm doing both. Got my North Carolina real estate license. Planning on getting mine in South Carolina, and I'm still doing engineering full time. Married with a 1-year-old or 2-year-old daughter now. She just turned 2 a few weeks ago, and just chilling, working hard.
To say the least, you are busy, man. Thank you for sharing that. I love that you mentioned that your dad and one of your longtime friends really said, come on, like, let's do this. Why are we not already doing it? So I really appreciate that. Calvin, can you share a little bit with us about who you are? What do you do?
Good night or good evening, everyone. My name is Calvin Cleveland. I also went to UNC Charlotte. I definitely recognize a lot of people on the call. It's good to see some familiar faces. So I'm currently a vice president of Bank of America in the risk department. But my main thing I do is real estate, flip homes. I work with clients, and then I do a little bit of property management here and there. I actually got into real estate on accident, kind of in my year of grad school. Pretty much same thing as AK just said, or Adrian just said, that didn't want to rent anymore. Was living in Charlotte, and at the time it was 2011, and like the market was crazy as far as like a downpour. Things are kind of in the pits. If you guys remember when we were coming out of school, there wasn't really like that many jobs out there. We were kind of coming out of or starting a recession here. So just ended up buying a foreclosure because it was in an empty lot in the middle of a cul-de-sac, and just kind of stumbled on my first real estate property on accident. I held that property for a couple of years and sold it, and just naturally went on to buy a rental property as well, like Adrian. And that has kind of grown into learning more about real estate, getting to know more about real estate. Eventually, I started having enough rentals to where I was like, I want to get my license to kind of start saving some money here and there. And that's kind of just blossomed into me doing real estate full time. So I also have a family. I have 2 little ones, a 5-month-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. Married as well. Been married to celebrated 4 years, and kind of looking forward to breaking away from corporate America and hopefully jumping full speed in real estate, but wanting to help as many people along the way as possible, Jessica, and just trying to teach as many people, because I know all the secrets that real estate kind of have, and it's all these gold nuggets that get passed on generation to generation, and just want to make sure that all of our people are hearing that same information and doing something with it to better ourselves. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you all so much. Calvin, thank you. You all have known these gentlemen for quite a long time. We went to undergrad together, and so I want to say Cleve, as that's his last name, also the name of his real estate company. I am just overwhelmed and always impressed with you all, and so that's part of the reason why I wanted you all to jump on and be able to share those nuggets, because I know other people are interested in flipping properties and just unsure about what is the first step that they need to take. So as we're discussing today, where would you encourage someone right now on the line that's like, okay, I'm interested, where would you encourage them to start? And Adrian or Calvin, you can jump in. Where would you encourage someone to start?
I'll lead off. Just I know our main call here today is about the flips, but I definitely wanted to mention this. Where I would first encourage anyone to start, if you coming out of with not much of a real estate background, I would absolutely tell you to first and foremost get a home, like get a property tomorrow. Call Jessica, call me, call Adrian. Ask us any questions. It's more than enough people to help you, because what's happening in this market with depreciation and things like that, the flips and the rentals are great. But it's some real money being made just by you living your life every day. So I would say that would be the first step. But once you acquire your first personal property, you can leverage it to create more funds to use in assets, or you can try to go find the money. So I'm going to kind of talk like straight up. I'm not really going to try to be too professional on this thing.
No, tell us the truth.
Yeah.
You gotta find the money. The first step of flipping is you're going to either find investors or talk to individuals who might be interested in investing, or it could be friends and family that, like in me and Adrian's case, just guys you've known for 10, 15 years, starting to talk about, and it doesn't happen overnight, but you start saving some capital to go make those properties. And the other way of funding is hard money lending, which is like, if you want to go flip tomorrow, you can. I never want to get on a call like this and make it seem like it's too hard, because it's not. You can go to a hard money lender and they'll give you money directly. I'll let Adrian speak a little bit about that, because he recently was in contact with one of them as well. I worked with one of them, but they're really good. It's just a little higher overhead on a monthly, because you're borrowing the assets, you're borrowing the money, and you usually can only do it for up to 6 months. So you got to make sure you know what you're doing. You can make a lot of money in flips and using other people's money. That's the smartest way. But the only thing is, you're kind of taking on overhead when you do it that way, opposed to you doing it yourself. You have it paid. It's just a little less expenses out there. But I'll let Adrian kind of speak a little bit more on the hard money lending side of things.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And I would say, to kind of piggyback, the first step is kind of what everyone's doing now, right? Is trying to learn and get educated about it. I know before I started getting into real estate, I was on HGTV heavy, watching all the shows about flipping and everything like that, house hunters and stuff. And then it made it seem like it was hard or unattainable because of the amount of money people were spending to do some of these flips. And really, when you get into it, it's really not that hard, as far as what you need. And you never know what your circle of friends or your network have that you can tap into, right? We're getting older. A lot of people are kind of getting deep into their careers, stack a little savings, and they may not know what to do with it except to sit in a savings account, right?
Right.
And then here you go, you're kind of getting into the real estate and want to do flips, and you've been doing research, and now you came across a property that's available that now a couple of your friends have the funds that you can tap into to invest. I mean, now, of course, it's just not easy as saying, "Can I get your money and invest with it?" I mean, you got to prepare to have some numbers and be able to kind of give them some information about it. But I don't think we think about some of those things. And then,
Right.
like Calvin was saying too, with the hard money lender, those are also available to you as well, and they pretty much lend with less stringent requirements than the bank, right? So the bank is going to ask you for everything. You know what I'm saying? When you're trying to get a mortgage loan, but really the hard money lender is only concerned about the asset, and will the asset be able to provide them with the profit that you're thinking about, and then get their money back as far as the asset can sell it. That's really all they're concerned about. And then some of them might be concerned about your experience, and depending on your experience, you may get a higher interest rate because you may not have put that many houses, but they're still going to lend to you based off of the asset that you found and what they believe that ARV would be, which is the after repair value. If you don't know. And then find a mentor. If you can find somebody that is doing it, that you can tap into and pick their brain and learn from, is it's invaluable. And I would say, me and Calvin have been friends for years, and because I'm older than him, I don't think he ever would want to say that he's my mentor. But he's really my real estate mentor. You know what I'm saying? I call him for everything. You know what I'm saying? He's the reason why I'm in real estate and that I'm in the position that I am today, because of what he's done and his knowledge and what he's helped to share with me. So finding somebody that's in the game, that's doing it, that won't mind sharing that knowledge, and is, I would say, not even selfish, because before I got my license, Calvin could have got my business, my in-laws' business.
Right.
And he was like, bro, get your license. That's your money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to take that money. That's your, you know what I'm saying? So, you can't beat that. So, definitely find a mentor that you can tap into.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna be honest, AK, is that you offering up your services? Somebody's gonna be asking.
And to be honest with you, I've already offered it up to plenty of people.
Oh, good.
For them to decide whether or not they want to.
Yeah.
Because you can't make anybody, you can tell everybody where to go, but you gotta come in and do the work.
Absolutely.
So, I'm not the first person that Calvin reached out to talk about real estate. I may have just been the first person to jump.
That's right.
So,
that's right. Okay. So, guys, I have a question about systems that you have in place to track your return on investment. I know that you may not go into, detail about every return on investment for all of your properties, but someone that's interested, that needs to hear a positive spin, or just knowing that you're getting that return on investment, what could you share, and how important is it to track those steps? Because you are putting a lot of money into that house that you all just shared with us. Beautiful.
Right.
Clearly you're putting effort, thought, money. So we just want to know more about, how are you tracking your systems, or what systems do you have in place?
I'll definitely start off. Depending on the project, I would say I always work backwards, Jessica, on the system. It's a really good question, and I think a lot of people don't ask that question enough. I think everybody really asks, like, well, how much are you making, or can I make this? And it's more so like, let's work backwards and kind of create a percent. So I'm not a greedy person at all. I share this with anybody who kind of comes in under me. When I first picked up flip books and started reading, I would see like where people were trying to make 30, 40, and 50% on properties, and meaning you're trying to take $100,000 property. After you do all your work and repairs and everything, when you're selling it, you're trying to make $50,000 off of it. Now, that's amazing. That's crazy, and that'll be life-changing, but that's not my testimony or my story, at all.
Right. That's the real.
Hasn't happened like that. I kind of believe in more quantity over quality in this case. And not that my quality's good, but as far as, like, I'm not trying to look for the best deal in the world and miss out. I wanted to secure the deal and try to secure more deals. I do that by working backwards, and I kind of create a calculator. I naturally like to use the number, Jessica, of 8%. I want to throw 8% out there. So the number 8, I would say that that's going to be your expenses going out the door. So when you're going to buy a flip property, I always start off with that ARV. Adrian mentioned that before, and that ARV is the after repair value. I always like to take that number and then take 92% of that number. So I'm deducting 8% in expenses, okay? So quick numbers, real quick. If it's a property that I know can sell for $100,000, a condo, townhome, or something like that, I want to know that, hey, I'm going to take 8% away from that. And after I sell this property, my expenses going out the door, I'm going to walk away with $92,000. So I can not only do you have to buy the property with some equity in it and have to have the repair money, you got to work backwards to make sure you can cover the expenses to pay realtors or to pay lawyer fees and things like that when you're actually selling the property. Yeah. Once I do the 8%, I take the rest of that $92,000 and I go and I deduct my expenses. So that's something really tricky, Jessica, that comes with experience. To be honest, the way I learned that is just kind of like AK, trying to be a sponge and asking people, hey, walking in different Lowe's, looking out for deals. My first few townhomes I did, I wouldn't buy anything expensive. I wasn't trying to like do it for the gram, if you will. I was trying to really keep my margins down because, we just didn't have it like that. And you want to make the most return. I think people get caught up because when you first start flipping, you're probably not going to have $300,000 or $400,000 out there just to go buy these big old houses, and you're going to end up buying these townhomes in areas that probably aren't the best. And the last thing you want to do is go spend a whole bunch of money putting it into a townhome that you're not going to get back because the comparables in that neighborhood just don't support it and don't support the money you put into it. So when I work backwards, I take my after repair value of that $100,000. I subtract my expenses of 8%, which are sale expenses. I then subtract my proposed expenses that I think it's going to take for me to fix the house up, okay? And then from there, I'm going to try to work my profit in, and that number is what I'm going to offer. So just messing with numbers, if I have a $100,000 property that I'm selling, and I know it's going to cost me $8,000 in expenses when I go to sell it, and it's $20,000 of work, so I'm at $72,000 now, went from 192 to 72. Well, to make that 10% on my return, I need to be buying that for no more than $60,000. If I'm paying any more than $60,000, I'm not going to make my money back. And the reason I say that is because anything can happen in the flip. If the AC is out or something like that, then pretty much half that margin is gone. So I always tell people, once you work backwards and figure out the profits you're trying to make when you figure out your expenses, you wanted to put in a little bit of a buffer. And then just, kind of make sure, that you're happy with that return. Right. Jessica might be happy with 5% return, because, again, a flip is happening in 6 months. So I don't want to get brand new and act like I've always just seen money like that coming in 6 or 3 months. You give me a couple $100, I'm like, look, I want to go for it. So that's kind of my approach, working backwards. And I think that's kind of a nice breakdown of kind of like how you approach it in just like a tactical, strategic way. The 92 number, the 8 number being expenses. And then I would say like a townhome, the average townhome is going to be about $12,000 in expenses, something under 1,000 square feet. If you're dealing with something that's like 2,000 square feet or more, you might be dealing with $20,000 in expenses, but that is to completely redo a home. Like that is to tear everything up, and you want to put new cabinets, new granite, new appliances everywhere. Because again, when you're flipping it, you want it to look really appealing, like HGTV. You want people to fall in love with it and just give you multiple offers and run your price up.
Exactly. That was definitely.
So,
thank you.
Pretty much that's the kind of the same model that I follow as far as the system. But one thing that he didn't mention is, well, when you find that property that you think you want to put an offer in, and he mentioned the comparables, right? And then looking at the comparables and being able to identify what are the comps or the comparables and what your ARV is. Because if you're not able to identify that ARV correctly, then your numbers will be incorrect, right? So if you're thinking, because you're looking at the comparables and you're just for simple, you think you're comparing a 3.2 to a 2.1, and you're thinking you're going to be able to sell that 2.1 for the same price as that 3.2 that's been rehabbed. Now your rehab, your ARV is incorrect because it's different comparables, right? So you want to make sure that you're able to get the right comparable so that your ARV that you're calculating is correct, the way your numbers are correct. And then from there, you just work backwards, like Calvin said, to get to where you should offer that on that flip.
Gentlemen, I'm so grateful for that information, you all. I love that you're so strategic with everything that you all do. The working backwards model was definitely understandable. And I actually, Adrian, was about to jump into what factors about the market do you all pay close attention to help guide your decisions. And you already, sort of mentioned that using those comps, which is extremely important. But is there anything else that you all watch very closely about the market?
Well, I mean, when you're driving around, just say Charlotte, for instance, I mean, you can kind of see where homes are changing, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, somebody just into that home, right? And there's just certain neighborhoods and certain areas that are being rehabbed quite a bit. So I mean, you can keep an eye on that. If you don't have access to MLS, you can kind of have your local agent, realtor, Jessica, me, Calvin, send you properties and kind of let you know what's going on in certain neighborhoods. I know a lot of people are familiar with the term wholesaling.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wholesalers out here that got their post on the market and what homes are available that can be rehabbed. And they're sending out homes every week, right? All the time, right? In different price ranges. So you kind of get an idea of where to look and what price range. And then once you kind of get that knowledge, you can kind of get an idea of, okay, um, these homes in Concord, North Carolina, are around my price range. And I can see that there's a lot of homes flipping in this area. And you can kind of look at that area. And then from there, once you're able to find one, then use your systems to identify what should be your offer price for that house.
Jessica, I want to add one last thing, just to break down. So we're having some realtor talk. I know Adrian mentioned earlier 3-2 and 2-1. So the first number is going to be bedrooms that we're talking about, and that second number is rooms that we're talking about. So if you hear Adrian talking about a 2-1, he's saying a 2-bedroom and a 1-bath, or a 3-2 is a 3-bedroom and 2-bath. So the most recent clip we did together, and you saw it in some of the pictures on our pages, it was a 3-1. So it was a 3-bed, 1-bath. When we looked up the comps in the neighborhood, there was literally a $25,000-$30,000 gap here in properties. It's closer to Plaza Midwood, so it's a higher amount in square footage where that property is. And if you were looking at it as a 3-1, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, well, it would not have made sense for us to purchase that property and fix it up and put all that money into it. We had to first factor in what is it going to take to turn this into a second bathroom. And what that requires is permits, plumbing, walls coming down. It's knowledge. You can find all this stuff on YouTube. You can call, you can read all into it. So it's not anything scary, or it's not knowledge that's not obtainable. But you have to make sure. If a lot of people go on Zillow.com or go on Redfin and they know what homes in their neighborhood, and they call me and they say, hey man, this home down the street sold for this much more, man, I could sell my house for this. And I always ask, okay, what bedroom, what bath are we talking? Because of the comps accurate. We looking at apples to apples, or are we comparing apples to oranges, if you will.
Excellent. So, gentlemen, of course, I know that we have some questions that we already discussed, but we have some questions in the chat, and I know that you can answer them. So, one person asked, do you look for homes locally, or have you looked at properties that are in different cities and states?
I'll take that one. Me personally, and so I think that when you really start getting a grasp of what you're doing, that you can start looking for stuff outside of your city. But it's already a lot kind of doing the research to find out what a property is worth within Charlotte city limits. Mm-hmm. And then when you jump city to city, like most likely you're going to create relationships with these different contractors to do the work. Right. And your contractors aren't going to be city to city. Some of them might go 30, 45 minutes away. But if you're looking in Durham right now, and I'm in Charlotte, my guy's not going to go to Durham. He might, but I'm going to have to pay for that.
That's right.
I might have to start paying for lodging or things like that. In kind of a season like this with COVID, and with everything being so backed up in the industry as far as contractors and even ordering things, it's really hard to maybe do things out of state, because you'll get a phone call from Lowe's 30 minutes before delivery saying, hey, we're about to be at the front door, and you need to open it. If you don't open it, they're taking your stuff back, and you got to figure out a way how to get it from Lowe's. So I wouldn't want that happening in a property in Florida. Even if it was a crazy deal, if I can't put my eyes on it, or if it's not within about 45 minutes drive, I won't purchase it. Now, granted, some guys have different connects, or they have friends or associates. Now, if Adrian was to move to Florida, I might feel a little more comfortable, because we know each other's business model. He has an eye for it. But I definitely, even an hour away can be hard and frustrating, because these are long nights sometimes. Sometimes I'm traveling. You'll get there and be working, and then realize you left something, or realize you got to go get one little different screw from Lowe's, and that's 15 minutes away. So you just want to kind of stay local, in my opinion, until you can branch out and you build different contractors who are maybe traveling city to city, or know a painter. Maybe a painter knows a painter, right, and they have a company in Greensboro or somebody like that, and you can build it from there. But I would start off within like a 30-mile radius. Even 30 miles, it's hard to really get to know your comps. Like, you want to kind of get to know someplace become an expert, and then move it out and grow it.
Solid.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, we had another question. Oh, Adrian, did you want to add?
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on that, I mean, Calvin hit it on the head. But I have been looking in other cities and states, not junk, but I mean, I have a friend of mine that lives in Atlanta, and I think he's on this call. So I would call him out, but he knows who I'm talking to. And he's in the real estate as well. And I send him properties. But I mean, it's really about building your team. With him being down there, and he knows the plan, right? Once we build that team, there's really nothing stopping us from doing something in Atlanta, right? But it's really about having your team and building that team to make sure that you can get the work done. And then my rental is in Greensboro, and just to say, as far as like having something outside of your local area, it can be a little bit stressful trying to get back and forth to your rental, especially if you're doing renovations on that rental. We got to do repairs, and like me personally, I'm not using a property management company. I'm doing it myself.
Right.
So you kind of got to manage that and go back and forth. So when I was doing the renovations to the rental, it was a little stressful trying to go back and forth on the road to Greensboro. So it's something to think about your time and how you want to manage that time on the road and managing that for renovation.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, you all. Solid advice. Another question in the chat was, what things would a property need to have for you to consider flipping it? So what are you looking for as you are searching the market? What are you looking for in a property that makes you say, all right, this is the one, let's move?
It's trash. And it's crazy, right? I mean, something that needs a whole facelift, right? You don't want to purchase something that's already kind of been updated, and then you're not really able to add any true value to it. So you want to find something that you can see that you can add value to it, and compared to what was already out there. I know one thing that me and Calvin talk about a lot too is at one point, and he would not look at anything that had 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. Right? That was something of his. But now that I've sent him some things, and we've been talking about certain things, I mean, I'm not saying it changed his mind, but those are things that he looks at now, right? So I mean, and now granted, if it's in your comfort zone, some people don't want to look at ranching, right? I mean, it just depends on what your niche is and what you want to work in, and you can kind of figure that out as you get more acclimated to the business and looking at flips. But yeah, just make sure that thing is trash and it needs some work.
Okay, I like it. Calvin, did you want to add anything before we move forward?
I think AK answered that perfectly. The only thing I would add is I always just pay attention to the numbers. So, like, my main thing I look for is the numbers. Because I have found properties that are not just terrible,
True. Yeah.
but it's the person selling it might be in a situation, and that doesn't. And so, first, me and AK talk about this big. And that's why we're on this call. People take advantage of people in real estate all the time. Okay, people go to old people's homes and knock on doors. People go and lie and kind of cheat and don't use ethics in this whole thing. So I'm not talking about telling anyone on this call to go to their grandmother's house and try to talk them out of a property or anything like that. That's not how I move, but that's not how I want anyone to move. What I'm more so saying is looking for opportunities. Sometimes, like things like divorce, things like this, like all kinds of stuff. So unfortunately, things like that. People will be in better situations if they could just let go of their properties. And they don't always have to be in the worst condition. They just might be in a better situation if they let it go. So I always try to find a happy medium when I do find the seller to where they're going to eat, we're going to eat, both parties are going to walk away. But I'm always also looking for those numbers. That's the main thing. And then the last thing I look for, like, flips that I potentially want to purchase or what's going on around it. So I don't care too much about the neighborhoods. Like I can tell you all kinds of stories. I've had shootouts right outside by some of my flips. I mean, I've been in some definitely purchased properties in some areas that are spotty in Charlotte because sometimes that's where the deal is, to be honest. And you have to feel comfortable. I know as females on this call, like you have to. I would suggest like them moving. You moving. And protect yourself, female and male. But just some of these are late nights and things like that that you really want to be aware of. But I always look for like areas like AK said that are damaged but might be coming up, and or a lot of this stuff is public. I mean, they'll tell you what's coming 5 years from now. It's just that we don't go looking. It's not a current event, so it's not really on our feed of social media, so we're not like jumping into it. But they'll tell you, hey, Eastland Mall is turning into this MLS soccer field. Okay, it's right now still Eastland Mall. Like, when Eastland was around, when we were in school, Eastland was Eastland. You go down here, it's still like that. But it's really turning its tide. So you just got to kind of keep your ear to the streets.
The light rail is a good example too. And that light rail was coming, right? In a lot of places, the properties were still being sold as if the light rail was not coming on there. So you were able to get in at a certain time. And then once the light rail started breaking ground and coming into being implemented, started seeing the properties go up, right?
Yeah.
So
okay. You all are sharing so much great information with us. If you're comfortable, share with. I've heard you all mention your rental properties and you all having tenants. If you're comfortable, how many tenants do you have at this time?
So right now I have one tenant. So I had a rental property in Indianapolis, and I sold that one last year, and really for the main reason of not being there. And like I told you, I was being my own property manager.
Yeah.
So I sold that one. So right now I only have one tenant in Greensboro, and then kind of focusing on the flips until I acquire another one.
Yeah.
So with me right now, I've definitely had rentals in the past, and I've had up to 2 or 3 rentals at a time, like with all tenants and everything. Right now, I currently actually have none. I've liquidated out. I always say too, it's good to try to have your hand in a little bit of everywhere in the real estate bucket. But like AK said, I started really focusing on flips. I started putting a lot of my focus on the flips and liquidating out of some of the rental properties. This will maybe be part 2 of a conversation or another call, because I don't want to get too away from the flips, but just like he said with rentals, Airbnb, like that's where it really is at. That's where it's really at. I just want to throw that out there. That is a rental. And because we are millennials, I think I would be doing a disservice on this call if I didn't say, hey, like Airbnb is where it's at. Like we've all stayed in the Airbnb before. You never think about that cleaning fee or some of the other fees you pay. You and your girls are just going to have a good time. Then COVID has taken that environment and shaken it up a little bit. The Airbnb I liquidated out of that as well because of COVID. But what I found was that Airbnb was making almost double what the rental property was making in the same exact unit. So it's just something to look at with Airbnb. You need to look for light rails or look for, certain parts in the city that are going to be attractive for guests to stay. But it's really crazy that we just never think about how many people don't have a place to stay night to night and just look to go for one day to come up to a bar and just don't want to drive home after they've been drinking. They'll just stay at your place, look at it 11 o'clock at night. It was really cool to become like a hotel manager. That's something I definitely would say that people can reach out to me on outside of this call, but something to look into with rentals too. Airbnbs is the move.
Okay, part 2, Calvin.
One thing we didn't really talk about earlier is like understanding what is your goal or your plan, right? And your long-term goal, short-term goal. Because everybody doesn't have to flip, right? And if you want to have a buy and hold and you want something that you'll be able to have long-term, that in retirement is bringing you monthly cash flow, then maybe getting the rental and buy and hold is for you, or Airbnb. Flipping is good. And you can do that as you're buying and holding. But I think you need to really understand what's your risk tolerance, right? And what's your goal for you. Right? You don't have to flip. You don't have to rent. You can do either or you can do both. But I think understanding that, and then like Calvin said earlier, understanding the numbers and your margins is something that you need to figure that out before you kind of dive deep into it.
Okay, thank you for that, you all. We have several questions in the chat. I'm going to ask my last question, and I'm going to go directly into the chat and make sure that we answer the questions from those that are on the call with us, as well as someone wants to unmute themselves. So my last question to you, gentlemen. Share with us one huge mistake that you've made. Of course, also share with us how you recovered, but I think that there is great value in learning from others' mistakes. And so is there anything that just really stands out through you all flipping homes that you know would help someone moving forward?
I got an easy one. I'll definitely. I had a house in Gastonia earlier this year, so in January. One of my biggest mistakes, and what I will always tell people, is something that I never thought about: a crawl space versus slab. So if you're familiar, when most of us were growing up, a lot of us probably grew up in cribs that had crawl spaces. Like, go up your steps and you were going to your home, whether it be a single family, a 1 level or 2, A lot of them had crawls. Slabs started coming in the 90s and then 2000. Now, like, you see slabs like almost everywhere. You don't see as many crawl spaces. But what I did was I purchased a property out in Gastonia. Not to say that you don't purchase properties that have crawl spaces at all, but just to really look into them and to investigate. What I ran into was I did the flip. I put all the money into it. I put it on the market. It actually went in one day. I mean, I'm ecstatic. I'm feeling great about the whole situation. But after the inspection came through, everything was good in the inside of the home. But under the crawl space, there was about $7,000 worth of mold damage that I had. Honestly, when you hear mold, you kind of just think like ill, like, you don't want anything to do with that. And I'm thinking like, man, was I exposed to that? And granted, I wasn't under the crawl space, but I had no idea like what I always heard mold is scary, but like it could be light mold and what they have to do. I mean, it costs them $1,500 a valve for them going there, So with crawl spaces or properties with crawl spaces, mold was just one of the things because they're always dark and damp. That's just one of the things to look out for. Mm-hmm. But there could like air ducts, and the air ducts is what's controlling your AC, like the piping and stuff. That stuff could be hanging all over the place. You could have like old, just people use that as a storage back in the day too. So you just when you're looking at flips, you always just want to check. Me and Adrian found about $500 worth. It cost us about $500 to clear out our recent attic because we were sitting there in the flip. Been working on it for 3-4 months, and then somebody went up in the attic to connect something and said, "Hey, y'all know y'all got $400 or $500 worth of junk up here. Pay somebody." We weren't about to go up in that attic and be in the hot, trying to take that stuff out. So we had to pay somebody. Had no idea. I wish it was something valuable so we could have something to show for it, but it was just. I mean,
and I think it might have been some stuff of that valuable because we still ain't heard from you guys yet.
Adrian, do you have a mistake that we can learn from?
I would say for me, it's probably how we manage contractors, right? And I think one thing me and Cal talk about a lot is we got some really, really good contractors that do great work, but sometimes managing their time and how they are managing their time on the flip, right? And one of our contractors who's a beast. I mean, his mind is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to do everything. You know what I'm saying? And because of his talent, we allowed him to do so much things within the house. You know what I'm saying? But it cost us a lot of time. We saved some money, but the time that he spent doing so much work because we didn't have those things kind of delegated out to different contractors, I think it pushed us back on our time getting to the market when there was a certain time that we really wanted to be there. And because of that, I think it pushes us back. And then one thing that I've learned too is also being willing to like fire somebody. You know what I'm saying? And bring somebody else in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we are nice people, which is why I learned that I couldn't be a property manager because I have a tenant that's married with 3 kids and his grandfather staying with him, and he's not paying rent on time. Like, I'm too nice to go through the eviction process. Eviction process. You know what I'm saying? So it let me know that property management is probably not for me. For knowing that. So, I mean, that's a mistake on the flip side and a mistake on the rental side that you got to know who you are. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
You understand how to manage the process.
I definitely have experienced that, you all. Thank you so much for allowing us to learn from you. I'm going to jump into Linwood's question, which kind of talks about what you all shared about contractors. He asks, how do you find and vet your contractors? And do you self-perform any of the work? And I know I've seen you do it, but just share, you all. How do you find and vet your contractors, and do you self-perform any of the work?
I would say, to be honest, I kind of had a hard road up on that. Like I didn't do much vetting. To AK's point, being too nice a lot of times, Jessica, and just trusting people on their word. And then what I try to do first and foremost is lean on someone I know who had done it. So I do have a few other mentors, some older brothers, things like that, who have some hands in real estate. And I just ask, hey, do you know a plumber? Hey, do you know a painter? Hey, do you know? And then the guys who did what they were supposed to do, I just really held on. But most importantly, I made sure I took care of them. Like if they charged me $1,000, I might give them $1,100. I just want to. If they're a little late, I'm not too hard on them. I want to always make sure that they remember who I am, so they can like start looking out for me. And that's what it's turned into. They kind of, I now send them to my clients' homes, and they understand that I'm trying to blow their business up as well while blowing mine up. and is trying to keep money in this culture, in this community. I think that, they really, it's easy to do work with them now because I have that trust factor there. I'm still a little too nice, and still it's really hard just to find because even the best contractors in this kind of environment, they might give you dates and times, and what I found is contractors always promise you things, and half the time cannot. They didn't want the work, they want the contract.
Yeah.
They need that next contract set up when they finish doing the work that you're doing. Then that can really, really, hurt your timelines, etc. But I do vet them now. I'm even starting to have to turn it. It's went from kind of playing around to really have to turn this into a business. So from now on, or from what I'm starting to implement, is contracts with my contractors. So,
that's right.
If you're not in 4 months, then what's going to happen with this $2,000 I owe you? Is it turning into $1,600? And that is, to Adrian's point, that's really, really hard for me to do. I haven't done it yet. I don't even want to cap over it. But that's where it has to go. Because unfortunately, people, some contractors who know you're gonna pay them and know you're gonna always take care of them, you're gonna get pushed to the bottom of the totem pole because they know what Cal's gonna still call me. But I'm working on that and praying over it too. But that's kind of the next step for me personally in business, is to be harder and to vet, to have a more vetting process, and then put in their pen to the paper, putting their company to the name. I don't go in comments and leave bad comments on people's pages and stuff like that. But, people do, and it changes behavior. So that's something I maybe need to start thinking about as well. So, yeah.
And to a certain point, too, a lot of these contractors, they probably don't have a website. Some may have some may have an Instagram, right? They may not even be an official business, right? So you got to pay them cash on the table. So, vetting can be kind of tough to that level, right? But for me, just because now that I'm getting into the space, I talk to a lot of contractors now, right? Just everybody. In my neighborhood, they're building new construction, and a lot of people are getting work done. So if I'm walking down the street and I see somebody doing work, I talk to them, get the number, and then I had a paver guy come to my house and did my pavers, right? And then he did such a good job at a decent price. I told Calvin had him go to his house to do some work. He did a good job again. He did all this within the same week. We're can you go to our flip and do this, right? And then knock that out. So that's the type of work that we're okay, look, I'm going to continue to use you, right? And then his wife had a cleaning business. We used her to clean the flip, right?
Nice.
So, things like that is kind of what helps in the vetting process, in the process, you know what I'm saying? Not necessarily before we actually lock them in. And then when it comes to, doing the work, initially, I thought I wanted to do the work, right? And Calvin tell you all the time, he's all right, we can go to the flip and do this. And I'm man, we could pay somebody to do that. Right? I'm not going to go. I don't want to go do that no more. You know what I'm saying? Because, when you're talking about you're putting the kids down to sleep at 8 o'clock, 8:30, eat, and now we're at the flip at 9. And then we're at the flip from 9 to 1 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Get back home, wake up, the kids screaming your name, come off a daycare, now you're at work full time. I don't know if I really want to do that. It's cool, but for me, this is kind of going to be I want it to be income that I'm not spending a lot of my time on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like to put contractors in. So when you're budgeting your rehab expenses, for me, I'm going to budget that into my rehab expense because I know that I personally don't want to go in there and do all the work. Some of the demolition stuff I'll go in there and do, but I personally don't want to do that.
That leads us into a question, you all. Aisha asked the question of what's the process if you only want to invest? How would you suggest going about picking the right team or person to invest in? So, she's talking about having the money, wanting to invest, hoping to see a return on her investment.
So I think it depends, right? So I think getting a part of real estate groups, and because it's going to be about trust. Do you trust that person to handle your money with care and then provide you with the income that they told you that they would do that with? You can have a promissory note, you can have contracts, but some people out here are shicey and they don't honor those contracts or promissory notes. So it comes down to who do you have that you know that you trust, that you can invest with, and then having that conversation with them, and then talking the numbers to figure out, okay, this is what I have to invest. If I'm able to invest this amount, what kind of return could I see by doing this. And then even if you want, I have a friend that approached me about wanting to get into flipping and rentals and things like that, and trying to save the money to invest, and they really just want to learn the business, right? So look, I can invest $5,000, but I really just want to shadow you and learn what you guys do to flip, right? I mean, that's an avenue too, but it's really about finding the right people, being a part of certain groups, and just gaining that trust that you feel comfortable with.
Okay. Another question was, what are the key? Oh, I'm sorry, Cal.
Jay, because we got a lot of questions. Go ahead.
I know we do. What are the key areas of the house that determine value from an appraisal standpoint, or areas and features of a house?
I'll take that one. I think that one came from
Donald.
That one came from Donald.
Yeah, this is Donald.
Man, I would say so. The first thing, like kitchen, master bedroom, master bath.
Mm-hmm.
The backyard is a close up there because a lot of people spend time in their yard. But if this kind of depends on, and working with clients, like I just watched it now. If I'm working with a male client, the kitchen might not mean as much. But pretty much any female client I work with, whether they're a single female, whether they're married, like that kitchen's going to mean something. They got to be able to see that kitchen turn into what they picture themselves cooking in that area.
For sure.
So the kitchen, I think, is like most important for me. The second, even though you don't spend as much time in the master bedroom, like you usually sleep, but a lot of people now like are spending a lot of time in their master. You have studies within masters. You know, you have like little deck and area out that you can step out, little porches off of masters now. And they're really making the masters homey. And then two, it's crazy because even starting to flipping, I've been flipping since August 2018. Things have changed with COVID because now all of a sudden 9 months ago, the new thing and what I'm looking for too is, do we have a separate space for an office? Because everybody's working from home. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we can make the assumption that if like you might be that one person who isn't working from home, but most people are working from home, or most people are going to be looking to work from home for the next 6 or 7 months. The market is blowing up, and I always look for like, do they have that office space or that flex space that they either can make their man cave, their room, something for hobbies? Because what we're seeing too with a lot of millennials, it's really hard to get it done with just a 9 to 5, man. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard we work. Like, we gotta have some kind of hustle. I feel like I see Carlos now. Carlos is my guy, and I know he side hustle he's been working on too. So, man, Carlos, good to see you, bro. But like, Carlos needs somewhere to kind of work on his side business to kind of grow it. And I mean, then a lot of us are in school too, like somewhere to study. If we have kids, we can step away and just like really focus on us. So those are the flip areas: the the kitchen, the master bedroom and master bath, the backyard, and now I want to really introduce that flex space or that study as we kind of go into 2021, because that's kind of what things are turning into. Innovation is very important right now. With things changing day by day with COVID.
And just to piggyback on what Calvin said too, is also sometimes you can't change square footage, but if you find a property that has unheated space that you can now convert into a heated living space to add to your square footage, it's huge too, right? Yeah. So I mean, if you're looking at changing the property from a 1,200 square foot property to a 1,500 square property in certain areas, that's a huge difference, right? And could potentially bring in a lot more money on the flip side.
Definitely. Thank you for that, gentlemen. Of course, we have more questions. Give me just a second. Are you familiar with off-market properties, private sellers, estate sales, and what are the best ways to locate these properties if you're familiar?
Very familiar. So the flip world pretty much is all off-market property. Right? And just for everybody who's we'll go kindergarten in real estate really quick. If you're either on MLS, so meaning your property is online and listed with the real estate agent, it's actually showing on websites like Zillow, Redfin, and different sites like the portal that we set up as realtors for you. Or your property is not being listed; it's off market. What used to be like, when I first started getting into real estate, there were all kinds of flips and deals all out there on MLS every day because people just weren't buying cribs and they weren't in position. But now, especially in Charlotte, you can't find anything on MLS, like not for flip that you can go and make money from. Off market is definitely the way to go. I don't know as much about estate sales personally, because even with the estate sales in Charlotte, there's so many sharks out here in this market that is very competitive. But in smaller towns, I hate to say it, and I say this not even being funny, but people are dying. People die everywhere every day. In smaller towns, it's a little easier. Like for estate sales. There's less people looking for them. And then the last part of that, what are the best way to locate these properties? I would say with off market, AK mentioned it a little earlier with wholesalers. If you can find, if you go on, when we get off this call, if you go on Craigslist and type in wholesalers in wherever your respective city that you're in, or you go on Facebook Marketplace and type in wholesalers, or even Google it, you should find Charlotte wholesalers, and you'll have different people leaving their information. Just drop your, go on Facebook, drop them a comment with your email address, say, hey, I'm interested. And I mean, those wholesalers will start sending you these deals. They're doing the hard work, unless you want to become a wholesaler. If you're a flipper, it's hard to wear both of those hats. Let them go out there and do the chasing and do the mailbox and spend the money in marketing. And then once they find it, you let that come and fall in your lap. You do the numbers, and you have everybody set up for you to go in there and actually make the profit, executing the plan. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. What is your take on real estate? I believe that's investment trust. Do you think it is good to own multiple properties and invest in real estate investment trust? I'm pretty sure REIT is investment trust.
Yeah. Yep. I would say, it's always good, and it's good to have, of course, diversity. So everybody said diversity. I recommend having multiple properties, and I think that if you decide to get into the real estate investing game, those properties end up becoming your retirement, right? If you're holding it for the long-term game. So as many properties as you can get, and you'll notice that once you hear more or listen to podcasts or read more, they say doors, right? So the more doors you get, the more cash flow you can get, the more income you can get monthly. So as many as you can get, I recommend doing it, and then also investing in REITs or other type of investment tools that can utilize your money and have that money make money for you is always beneficial. But just make sure you read up on it, know what you're investing in before you do it, so that you're fully aware of the investment tool that you're using.
And our last question in the chat, how much cash on hand would you advise for someone looking to move into flipping houses?
I'll take this one. Camille, how are you? Camille's my client. How are you doing, Camille? It's really good to see you. So this one is actually kind of a little bit of an open-ended. It could be all over the place like that, because I don't want to, again, get on here and destroy dreams. Like, you need to have $100,000 to be able to flip a property. That's just not true. What I would say is, if you're willing to go the hard money lender route, and you're willing to, because if you find the right deal for low enough, you can go hard money lender route with no problem and be fine and be able to afford the overhead as you borrow the money. Again, with that route, you sometimes only need a couple $1,000s to get off your feet. You need origination fees, and then you need some of the deposits that they require, but you'd have to talk to different hard money lenders. I would say, and the main important thing that I want to point out is, I don't want to throw out a number, but even when you go hard money and you get like this money, lots of times they give it to you in pools. So a pool being, hey, you need to go do this work. You provide receipts, and some I believe you can find some that don't. But a lot of banks, they want to do in pools. You can get what you call a 203 loan, which is a bank loan that also has repair value built into it. But what they want to see is they want to see you put money up front, and then they want to see receipts for that money, and then they're going to send you the cash once you provide it. So they're not going to come up front and just give you all the money you need to buy the house and all the repairs. You got to have some money up front to do it, then provide them receipts, and be able to be paid back. And then you're still living your life while this is going on. You got to eat, you got to be able to go to your job and do all these things. I just want to, I really want to stay away from doing a number, but I would say, if you want to come in and even go hard money, you need to have around $15,000 to $20,000. I just want to throw that out there. I'm sure you can find somebody who's done it with less than that for sure. But it's just, the more research you do, you maybe can find other alternatives, or people who don't require as much money down. Or you can have zero money if you find people who believe in you, and you have everything set up. And you can promise them a certain return back, because really that's an option too. You could be the one who's in the real estate and be really interested in it. And you can have a family member or a friend who does really well, because again, we're starting to get into our 30s, and some of us are really starting to flourish, or family members that we have who just would do nothing but want to believe in their son, daughter, family member, and put money into it, but they just want to see something. That's just really a way where you're bringing really nothing to the table, but you're just more so bringing your knowledge, and you're making money from it after you promise them to return back. I'll say 15 to 20,000 if you want to flip, but obviously that's not going to buy you a flip and be able to do much repair. That's just going to, if you want to go hard money. If you want it in Charlotte to go buy a house right now, cash, a townhome, and go flip it, I would think you need like $70,000 to $100,000 on a townhome, because once you buy the cheapest townhome here off market for $70,000 and you go put $15,000 into it, you're already at $85,000. So that's cash out of your pocket. If you don't have $85,000 right now, as most of us don't, then that's more than fine. You can always reach out to friends. That's why we're all on this call. It's 25 people on this call. So if we wanted to have $100,000, each one of us would have to bring $2,500 to the table. Okay, and then there's $100,000 there. So it's really more like everybody eating and everybody supporting in the community and doing it together, and then us branching out and growing. Unless you've been saving, the other route is just to save up, or work with groups and cash route 75 to 100. You want to go out and get a house out here, or just to throw out like the house that me and AK, I'm not going to say what we bought it for, but what we spent in there, the one that it was using all the examples, we spent almost 70,000 in repairs in that house. So then granted, that house is at about a mile away from Plaza Midwood. It has a completely different sale price. It's a smaller home, but we had to put that money to match the neighborhood, okay, right, and to aesthetically match it. But it was about 70,000, like that you had to come to the table between a group of people, and that's just for the repairs. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. I would say hard money 15, 20, cash 75 to 100 for townhomes.
And just to add one thing to that, if you're looking at a 2 or 3K loan, I think you have to live in that property, and then they'll pay for the purchase and the rehab. But that has to be a primary residence, I think, in order to get that 2 or 3K loan, if I'm not mistaken. So keep that in mind. So anybody that doesn't currently own a property or thinking about purchasing one and something like that, that might be a good product for you. But I think it has to be a primary residence.
All right, you all. Gentlemen, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your information with us tonight. Will you please let everyone on the call know how they can contact you, because you've shared so much and I know that people have other questions, but we want to honor our time. How can they contact you?
Listen, I'm always open, especially to the UNCC community. Like I said, I know half the people on this call. It's really good. Mm-hmm. I see clients on this call and really, really appreciate support in the UNCC community. Like me and Adrian talk about that all the time, just like how we're supported in that UNCC community, how it's all love. We really want to give back and pay it forward. You can find me _Cleve, CLEVE Realty. So it's just 2 words, _Cleve Realty. That's my real estate page. I also have a personal page, Cleve the Realtor. I watch both of them and keep up with both of them, but I do most of my business through the Cleve Realty page, _Cleve Realty. And I would love to help out anyone. Like I said, I see multiple people on the call who I regularly talk to in DMs, and really appreciate some of the feedback that some of you guys give on some of these shows. So really appreciate the love.
Definitely. And then you can reach me at TKN Realty, and then also A Young King is my other Instagram handle that I use personally, which I think most of us already kind of follow each other on that one. So feel free, DM me. If you have my number and you didn't know that I was in the real estate, give me a call, of course, and we can always chop it up and discuss kind of the things that you're going to do and how to get your feet wet. So.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, AK. Thank you, Cleve. You all, my intent was I only have one tenant, you all, and I knew that I had a small amount of information to share. And when I saw the wonderful work that AK and Cleve were working on, I was like, we got to talk and we got to share and we got to bring it to people. So 2 things really quickly, because I cannot believe it's already 8 o'clock because time moves way, way too fast. I'm going to share my screen because I want we got to have a winner. We have a winner for our book. So hopefully you can see. I know it's moving slow. Are you able to see my screen? Can somebody tell me if you can see my screen?
Yep.
Oh, good. All right. So this is everyone that signed up. I'm just going to spin it so that you knew that it was completely random. This is everyone that shared their information. They may or may not have signed off. I know we have children, things happening. So let's go. All right. So our winner is Erica. And so I'm going to share the book with Erica, and I will find out how she wants that. Lastly, Mr. Anthony Stevens reached out to me, you all, and he said that everyone on the call, if you were interested in a complimentary financial planning meeting with him, that you could feel free to reach out, and I will share that link in the chat. But it is Mr. Anthony Stevens. He's with Northwestern Mutual, and he would love to share with you all more information about financial planning services. He is an insurance agent with Northwestern Mutual. Giveaway winner was Erica, and this was our last slide. So just thank you so much for being present today. I am grateful. I am going to stay on for just a moment just to share any information or send out any links that anyone needs. But Calvin, Adrian, thank you. And keep up the good work, gentlemen. Listen, you are making your families proud, your children proud, those that came before us proud. I am grateful for you, and please continue to do the work.
Appreciate it. Thank you.